Leaving 510 after Adidas's corporate takeover and their subsequent move to production in China, former 510 development and production boss Sang Lee took over the discarded Redlands manufacturing base and, along with an A-list team of shoe designers, created what we now know as the Unparalleled climbing brand. Star among its climbing shoe lineup, the aptly named Unparalleled flagships currently stands at the top of the legacy brand's roster, showcasing the best of over 20 years of shoe design experience and sported by bouldering superstar Tomoa Narasaki. Good morning campers, and thanks again for joining me today as I go over my personal experience and opinions on what I think is probably the best all-round climbing shoe currently on the market. And as always, before we start, if you could do me a favor and hit that like button, it does go a long way in helping support the channel. And for those of you considering picking up your own pair of flagships, the link as always will be down in the description below. Alright, with that out of the way, let's rock and roll. The flagships were created as a high-end all-round performer, and it definitely shows in its overall design, with a medium asymmetrical downturned last for steeper terrain, dual composition split rubber outsoles, and a stiffer midsole to help power down on micro edges. The shoes come in a red and white collar scheme, and coupled with the black rubber, aesthetically it's one of the nicest looking shoes on the market in my opinion, and the pattern molded toe patch and heel and stamped Velcro is just a nice touch that show the brand's love for their product, with the addition of those little details that I know many of you might not care about, but for me I see it as a green flag that the brand actually put some effort and thought into the design, rather than just slapping together what they had into another generic looking shoe. The micro-synthetic lining of the upper and insole feel really high quality and constructed with the same level of care, which give it a really premium feel overall, which unfortunately is reflected in the price, being one of the most expensive shoes currently out there, only beat by Scarpa's Margot and Maestro models, the latter of which is built for alpine climbing and comes with specific technologies for colder climates, so that shoe is a little bit of an unfair comparison. That being said, the premium cost and feel is also reflected in its durability, with the shoe so far standing up quite strongly against anything I've thrown at it both indoors and outdoors. The single strap closure system on the flagships adds a nice level of added tightness and is probably my most preferred way of securing climbing shoes just for its simplicity and not getting in the way of toe hooks and creating unnecessary wear on the shoes. Now I get that laces and the 3-strap and the cross-strap systems provide more flexibility in fit, but honestly that benefit is so minute that the best fitting shoes I have in my lineup are funnily enough all single strap, and if you're relying on the closure system to that much of an extent to keep your foot in, you've probably opted for a size too big or an ill-fitting shoe in the first place. As you can see on the sides of my flagships, there is some cracking on the contact points of the strap, which while only superficial is a shame to see on such a high quality shoe, but climbing shoes aren't exactly supposed to be baby to pristine conditions, so seeing a little bit of wear isn't really that concerning. The fit is best for those with a medium foot profile, not narrow but not too wide either, as the toe box, like I said, sits kind of in the middle in terms of width, though it's designed with a bigger volume in terms of height, so those with a wide foot like myself probably won't have too much of an issue despite the narrower sides. Those with a longer middle toe might also find this shoe a bit more comfortable than those with a high level of asymmetry, as the curvature at the front is a bit less extreme than other high-end performance shoes that choose to really focus that power down with pinpoint precision onto that big toe. The heel is also built high volume, so unfortunately for me, while the heel fits okay, it's definitely not the best for my feet since I've on occasion had a bit of slippage while performing hard heel hooks. But for general performance, it does relatively fine. After reading a few reviews online, it seems a few people have commented some difficulty in getting their feet into the shoe, even with the correct sizing, just due to the actual opening being on the tighter end. But I personally didn't have any more trouble with these than any other shoe that I've owned, and honestly the break-in period was pretty quick, maybe just 3 or 4 sessions, but it's just something to keep in mind if you have a chance to try the shoe on, since you might mistake having to get a size up just to get your feet into the shoe in the first place. Regarding size, I bought a US 6.5, dropping half a size down from street shoe size US 7 for a performance fit. So for those of you wanting comfort, stick to a street shoe size, and for those of you wanting toe numbing tightness, probably a whole size down. As it's made from synthetic, don't expect much of a stretch on these either. What you buy is more or less what you'll get, so make sure you get the right size right out of the box. Going back to the heel, the flagships were built with a thicker 4.2mm rubber, composed of their unique Real Honor or RH rubber, which is their harder composition to ensure that the rubber doesn't give out and deform under load during heel hooks. Unfortunately, because of the fit of the heel, the deformation is less of an issue for me as much as the dead space created by the incompatible heel ends up being, as that part just ends up giving in either way. Again, this is more of an issue for my foot profile. For those of you with a wider volume heel, this most likely won't be an issue, as you'll end up filling the space quite nicely. That's why it's important that you try these out for yourself to see whether they inevitably match your foot shape. The forefront of the shoe, on the other hand, uses unparalleled softer rubber compound, the Real Supreme or RS, measuring at 3.5 millimeters of thickness. The dual composition of rubber between the forefoot and the heel is definitely an interesting combination, as it gives you the best of both worlds, combining the higher friction and sensitivity of the softer compound for smearing and really pulling on holes, with the more solid composition of the RH rubber in areas where you'd want the shoe to really hold its form. This, coupled with a split outsole to allow freedom of foot movement for dynamic techniques and overhangs, as well as a stiffer midsole for edging support, is essentially the highlight of the shoe itself, with the combination of all of these features giving it its overall all-round performance. Clearly, it was a balancing act on the designer's part, ensuring that you get the benefits of both a hard and soft shoe simultaneously, which in my opinion was pretty close to perfect. The toe patch rubber has been molded to fit perfectly over the top of the forefoot, which limits the laminating, and looking at it after some mileage, it's definitely looking like it's holding to that promise. The rubber used for the toe patch is again different from what's been used elsewhere on the shoe, instead opting for an even softer, even stickier compound known as virtual demping or VD rubber, which makes toe hooking actually feel quite nice, as the extra friction it provides just adds that extra layer of performance when toe hooking. Now, regarding performance, the stickiness of the rubber compounds makes it one of the best compounds for volume walking, smearing, and really just sticking to glassy surfaces, which is why Unparalleled's rubber compounds are easily one of my choice picks for climbing shoes. But even though theoretically the edging performance of the Unparalleled flagship is marketed as the top of the range thanks to a stiffer midsole and the aforementioned rubber, I do have to say that due to the more center-focused profile of the toe box, the ability to really power down on a singular point falls a bit short, as opposed to my more asymmetrical shoes. And the softness of the RS rubber essentially means that edging is compromised as opposed to harder compounds like XS Edge, which just by its nature being on the stiffer side will see a lot less deformation when pressed down on, as the rubber just has less give. And again, even though the front of the foot fits like a glove, the heel does nothing for me to really give it any praise when it comes to heel hooks. Whether you use it as an indoor or an outdoor shoe, the flagships share the same pros and cons either way, though I'd say they perform better as an indoor competition shoe rather than anything else, as I personally wouldn't use the softer rubber to power down on the micro edges and tiny crystals of rock you'd find outdoors, but more for smearing on blank faces, polished holes, and indoor volumes. Overall, as a high-end shoe, I think it's a great all-rounder. Honestly, even despite its shortcomings, I'd go as far as saying it's the best on the market in that category. And if the shoe fits your foot perfectly, there would be very little for you to complain about. If I sized half a size up from my current models, the shoe would probably be my top choice for lead climbing, giving me a little bit of extra space for comfort. But doing so would just make an already baggy heel even baggier, which just ends up taking away from what the shoe could give me in terms of performance. The shoe really doesn't stand out at excelling at one thing or another, but honestly, it was never really advertised as a specialist shoe to begin with, but an all-round shoe that you could use for virtually any situation. So for what it was built for, I'd have to say it delivers quite well. Now, I feel like this review leaned a little bit on the negative side, but I want to clarify that I actually do really like the shoes. It's really well built, it's just not the right fit for me. A lower volume heel and it would probably challenge my Squamors for my second place, a more asymmetrical toe box, and it's probably contending with my theories for first. Unparalleled have more recently launched their low volume version of the shoe as well, which could fix the issue with the heel, but unfortunately for me, with the toe box already the right size, it would also result in my forefoot just being crushed to death on both sides. I think with Sanglee's unwillingness to sacrifice quality, Unparalleled are one of the strongest brands in the shoemaking business, and I have my fingers crossed for a shoe that is more specialized and more form-fitting for my foot profile, because I think that the Unparalleled flagships stand as one of, if not the highest quality shoe I own. Just not the best for my style of climbing or the best fitting. Though there were some QA issues in the beginning of the brand startup, that all is in the past. If you are a fan of the original 510 fit and quality, you'll definitely be happy with what Unparalleled have been able to accomplish in the short time that they've been around. As always, I want to thank you guys for always tuning in and watching. Let me know down in the comments below any questions and what your thoughts are on the flagships, and of course, any other shoes that you'd love me to cover on this channel. Stay safe, keep on crushing, and I'll see you legends next time. Peace.